What's going on, rock stars? Listen, if you are tired of sifting through the noise right now, you feel like you're being bombarded in all directions, and there's just so much chaos that's coming up in your world, whether it's your kids having to homeschool them, whether it's having the uncertainty of not being able to work right now or not knowing what your next step is. Maybe you feel lost in the void right now and you're feeling like you're in the void. If you feel like it's hard to find answers that you need or that you're trying to seek, perhaps you're trying to find your next step right now. Like, where am I going next? What's next for me? How do I just get out of this mental mind funk that I'm in? Maybe for you, it's how to bring in more income, gain your next client, land the opportunity, or it could be as simple, rockstar, as just trying to feel better. What if you didn't have to add something to your life to feel better and you could just feel better now? Welcome to the 1% Life Rockstars. My name is JoanieDhillon, peak performance coach and trainer. Today, we are talking about how to stop seeking and start releasing. Tag somebody in the comments below. Share this out. Let's get this out there to as many people as possible. People need to feel better now. So this is actually in regards to more than feeling better. Today's episode is actually going to help you to understand how to stop adding things to your plate. Like, you may just be trying to find that one thing, and I'm going to help you to sift through all of that. So Rockstar, if you're feeling like me right now, I feel, and I've shifted through this, and maybe sifted through this over the past week. But I was feeling last week like there was a lot of noise, a lot of things coming up like at me in all directions, from my business, my team, who's awesome, amazing, love them, and just responsibilities and things that I had to do, things coming up with family, noise coming in from all directions, somebody wanting me to see an article on COVID-19, somebody making sure that I heard about this one thing, right? Wanting to serve clients in the highest way possible, all of the things, right? I mean, you have your own things, do you not? They're different from my things, but they're your things. And it can feel like a lot of noise. Who can relate? And if you're feeling this way, it probably doesn't feel very good. Would you agree? And here's what happens when we're seeking, right? The simple act of seeking, trying to find clarity. If you heard yesterday's episode, it was all about finding clarity amidst the chaos. And one of the ways to do that, which I talk about in that episode, so if you haven't seen it, go back and listen to it after this. It's asking yourself questions, right? You are one self-generated question away. And on top of that, right? Like, aside from that, let's just say aside from that, when we're looking at finding clarity to something, right? Looking for a job, finding additional ways to bring in income into your house, finding clarity on how to help coach your kids and teach your kids because the teachers aren't teaching your kids right now. That can feel like a lot, right? And the simple act of seeking means that we are attempting to find something to bring it into our life, right? We're off on a quest of sorts, looking for, sometimes they say, there's a saying, when you seek, you shall find, or you shall seek, and whatever it is, right? Something about seeking, you will find the thing. And it's not to say that you won't find the thing, but the simple act of seeking and searching for something means that we feel that we need to add something into our life, right? We're trying to find the thing that we can add into our life to make us feel whole, to feel complete, to feel like that problem is now resolved. And when we consciously want more, we believe we need to not add everything into our life, but add that thing that's going to fill the void. And it may be in the form of a new behavior, a new strategy, a new plan. It may be in the form of an individual. It may be in the form of a book to read, a new show to watch, a new something, right? But what the simple act of seeking means and imply is that it's implied within that it's missing. Something is missing. And when we're lacking something, it says that I don't have the thing within me right now. And that thing that is outside of us. It's like I'm finding the thing that's outside of me. And one of the things I've really been working on within my own practice and my own business and my own life and my evolution right now is to stop seeking for the answer outside of me. And to know that I have, and that's actually just one small aspect of today's show, it's that I actually have the answers within. I have the answers within. It's not in somebody else or in something else. It's actually here right now. But with all of the noise that you may be experiencing right now, with all of the things coming at you that you feel like you're taking on, it's hard to sift through that noise. Maybe you agree. And when you're feeling like there's so much noise, what happens is we tend to shut down, right? We shut down and we react. And maybe you've reacted and overreacted to somebody in your life, whether it's a child, a significant other, parent, whoever that is, a sibling. You react. You tend to react, right? Because it gets to be a lot to handle. And so what we have to do is start thinking differently. Like, what if it's not about adding more to my plate, adding one more thing I have to do, one more news thing I have to listen to, one more podcast I have to listen to, one more homework assignment I have to help my kids with, one more thing I have to do just to maintain the normalcy of my family, all of that. What if letting go of something was all it took to make room for more? What if releasing something you've been holding on to was enough to create space for more? So what are you doing right now that feels so taxing in your life, right? How do we go about letting go when all we feel like we want to do is grab on to the thing that makes us feel like our life is somewhat normal? I mean, I went and had coffee the other day at a coffee shop and ordered it in. That wasn't normal for me. Made sure when I picked it up, I was like all standing away from the counter. You know, the guy was getting too close. I'm like, oh, you're not in my 6 feet. Like, do you not know how to operate this? Right. All of the things that feel so abnormal right now, we're looking and seeking for normalcy. And that thing that is feeling really taxing may be a weight that you've self-imposed on yourself. Like, I know for some of my clients, they're dealing with kids and homeschooling and significant others and non-significant others who don't want to homeschool their kids when the kids are staying there. So then they're forced to step up to the plate. And that's a lot of weight. It's a lot of pressure, right? It's like, oh, now I got to handle the kids when they're not even with me, right? There's a lot of things that are going on that can feel really taxing. So what do you feel that you're doing right now in order to release something, right? Just what if we were to accept the notion that letting go allowed for more? What if you were to just accept that and just try that hat on? And in order to do that, you have to understand what you're holding on to that feels like it's not serving you. It feels heavy. It may feel like it's creating a certain reaction within you. It may feel like you're getting triggered, right? Something happens and you're feeling emotionally triggered. Could that be the case for you? And I actually started to notice it last night within me. I was having a conversation with a good friend and we start talking about politics and he starts going down this certain route. And I start noticing that at the end of my day, I was feeling really taxed. I was feeling heavy. You know, it was like 10 something PM. I really didn't want to have the first conversation that we had around politics. Especially because I was starting to see, hear, and feel that we were like not on the same page as I thought we would be in what's going on in this climate right now. And so when I noticed the intensity and the energy just getting more and more intense, I knew, I anticipated within myself that, ooh, I'm not feeling my most resourceful self right now. I'm feeling like I could get triggered. I could react in a way I don't want to react. And so I tried to guide the conversation in another direction. And it went there for a minute and then it came back. I'm like, right? And so I brought up, I'm like, hey, would it be okay if we just not talk about this right now in a loving way, right? So I became aware of the pattern that was causing me to feel, well, first of all, I became aware of my state. I was feeling taxed. I was feeling heavy. I was feeling like energetically drained. It was the end of my day, right? And not that you need to feel drained at the end of your day, but I was feeling drained at the end of my day. And I also knew that that was going to have an impact on my behavior. I had a feeling. If you know yourself, you know that sometimes we act in our best selves and other times we act in our not so best selves. And becoming aware of that allowed me to shift the conversation in a different direction in a loving way. Not like, hey, can we stop this right now? It was, hey, I'm noticing that I'm feeling a certain way. And while I really want to have this conversation with you, I'd really love to have it when we're both feeling a little more resourceful and in a different space. So would it be okay if we just put a pin in it and saved it for another time? And so start thinking about first, what are you doing? Like that was just something that happened. It wasn't something I do normally. It was a situation that happened that started to feel taxing, right? And so I had to actually let go of normally maybe wanting to push into that, but let go of the need to be right in that moment. Let go of the need to prove my point. I had to let go of it was just a surrender for me. Like, hey, I'm totally cool if we just put a pin in this and address this when we're both feeling better. Well, at least for me, when I was feeling better, right? So what are you specifically doing that's feeling taxing? If it's holding on to, overly thinking about how you're generating income right now. I know a lot of my clients are out of work at the moment. A lot of them are out of work. In fact, probably almost all of them are. And there's a lot of weight and heaviness to overly thinking about that thing, right? So what would it make sense to remove the thinking about the thing that you cannot get resolution to right now, that you don't have control over? So when we start releasing the thing that's causing the negative reaction in our bodies, that's causing us to shift into an unresourceful state and negative state, that's causing us to get triggered and react negatively towards someone else. When we start letting go of the thing that we can't control often, maybe you can't control, and just start releasing the need to have answers. Sometimes it just comes down to that. And, a friend of mine said that yesterday, like, what if you just are okay with not having all the answers to that thing right now? And I thought, yeah, right? So when we start thinking of releasing, it can be releasing a lot of things. It can be releasing a negative behavior, right? If you're sleeping in till 11 or 12, what would releasing that behavior do for your life right now in terms of maybe gaining clarity or feeling simply better, feeling better? What if releasing was a matter of letting go of another habit that wasn't serving you, like the need to control, right? When we control, it's programmed into a lot of our being, right? But just letting go of the need to control how somebody else in our life shows up, just releasing that. And how do we do that? Intention and permission. put the intention out there that you're ready to release control and give yourself permission to do so. And to be, this is a simplified way of doing it. To be not that person, to be a person who's just like, I don't have to be right now. I can just let it go. And how would that serve me? How would that serve us? What if it's releasing the thing that you're eating that's making you feel bad right now? A lot of people are going into patterns of things that are making them feel good, right? It's putting a Band-Aid on it. Coping mechanisms. When you're trying to cope with not feeling good, you eat more, or maybe you drink more, or maybe you sleep more. What is that thing that when you decide to just release it, it can really move the needle for you? And one of the things that when we think of moving the needle, it comes down to feeling better. Does it not? Like when you actually feel better, you take inspired action. When you feel better, you take very different action than you would take when you don't feel good. And what if it's not a matter of letting go of something, but letting go of someone? And this may be a big one for you. Who are you holding on to in your life that is holding you back from your next level? Who are you holding on to in your life that's preventing you from breaking through? Who are you holding on to in your life that is instilling their belief systems on you that are not in alignment with your belief systems? Who are you holding on to that has old school thinking of your past and they've got you trapped in a box and you're like, no, I'm somebody different now? See, one of the things that I've learned, I'll speak for myself, I've learned to understand is that not everybody gets to come with me. Not everybody from my past is where I'm at now, and not everybody from my past deserves to go with me into my future. And when you can start to understand that there is a season for everything, relationships have a season. Relationships don't necessarily mean significant other, a marriage, something like that. Yes, those two are relationships, and those two have its season. Sometimes that season lasts a few weeks. Sometimes that season lasts years. Sometimes that season lasts an eternity. Relationships also are partnerships, friendships. To think that somebody, because they were a friend from when you were 7 years of age, has to stay your friend for the rest of your life. Well, if you feel a certain way every time you're around that person that doesn't make you feel good, you leave feeling gross or sticky or, like, man, do they just not get me? I remember feeling that way. Friends just didn't get me. They don't get you if they're not going along your same path. Nor do they have to get you because they're going on their own path. And understanding that it's okay to let go of those friends if they're really holding you back, or those people in our life that can come in different shapes and forms. Business partnerships. If you feel a certain way that's unresourceful, that feels not good habitually, well, there's a pattern there. And while I'm a firm believer that we control how we feel, I also believe that other people's energy that's in our space is not conducive to where we want to go. And so get out of it. Get rid of them. Move on. That season ended and it's time to move on. And giving yourself permission to let go of the individuals in your life who are not serving you is really powerful. And it's very empowering because now you're like, oh, I control my life. And just because we have a past together doesn't mean that we need to have a future together. That season has ended, putting a bow around it. It was beautiful. It was what it was, and it's gone. And maybe it wasn't beautiful, but it was what it was. And coming to peace with that. And if you need to forgive yourself for that, that's okay, for letting go. Because oftentimes there's a lot of self-judgment around holding on to people, places, and things in our life. And when we decide to let go, especially of individuals, it's almost like we're supposed to hold on to them forever. Could you imagine if you still held on to your first boyfriend or girlfriend? And for many of you, that sounds like very far-fetched, right? Some of you, hey, maybe you're with that person and that's amazing. But there are relationships in our life that we outgrow. There are people in our life who no longer have earned the right to stay. And as you continue your quest to being more, and I believe serving more, and ultimately that means having more, greater level of fulfillment, having a greater level of joy in your life. When you get to that place, and if somebody's really self-focused on how can I serve me in this time? I had a conversation with someone yesterday who spent 45 minutes talking about himself the entire time. The entire time. 30 seconds, I interjected just to see what would happen because I'm like, I like to do that. And then it just went right back to him. Now, this person happens to be someone in my family. So, but guess what? If there's a toxic relationship, which that one is not toxic, that's a healthy relationship, it's just observing behavior. And sometimes we need to feel like we're being heard right now. And I was okay with being that person. But we need to look at those things. And, when I heard, and there's no one in my life that I would do this with, just so you know, but maybe there is in yours. Just because someone's family doesn't mean that they have the innate right to stay in your life. If it's creating toxicity on your children, if it's creating toxicity in your relationship, if it's creating havoc or chaos in your life, why are you addicted to the torture? And how do we deal with this is different. And I'm really open to hearing your questions on this and your feedback. So if you're watching this live on the Facebooks, definitely put your comments and I'll go in and address them. But one of the ways that we know that we get to that point, right? Sometimes you just have an instant, whoa, when they cross this line, done, right? And it's really important to have those lines for us in all of our relationships. I know what those lines are for me in business partnerships. Someone crosses that line, look, one time, all right, I can forgive you for. The second time, people show you who they are. They show you who they are. And if you're now unwilling to see who they are, then you have just accepted that standard in your life. And you kind of deserve what happens next. Because you also showed them who you were in accepting that level of treatment. So we have to lay our standards out. We have to set our standards, even set your standard in your life. What are you willing to put up with when it comes to relationships? And you get to lay that ground. You get to create the ground that someone else is entitled to walk on. Meaning, I'm giving you permission to be here, as opposed to you have that permission. No, I'm actually giving you that permission to be in my life right now. And when you cross that line, you no longer significant other, person, friend, business relationship partner, whoever you are, you no longer have that right. So some of our standards are really low. Some of your standards may be too low. And there's this really incredible quote by Tony Robbins that says, you get what you tolerate in life. You get what you tolerate in life. If you tolerate mediocrity, you get mediocrity. If you tolerate disrespect, you get disrespected. If you tolerate joy, you get joy. If you tolerate somebody treating you like a queen or a king that you are, then you get that. You get what you tolerate. So set your standards higher. right? There's this correlation, which a lot of people don't realize. And I know this podcast is morphing and evolving into, but it's all about releasing and letting go of the thing that's not serving you, right? So, where was I going with that? When we think of just this, the energy of relationship, it's energy that we set the terms for. And if you notice that your relationships, your partnerships, in whichever way, shape, or form they come in, are feeling challenging over a repeated period of time, I would encourage you to look at what standards you have set and what you have allowed in terms of standards to be crossed. And it's okay to be like, whoa, look, I realize that I have allowed this to happen in my life. I've realized that I have allowed this to happen in my relationship with you. And I also know that is no longer what I'm ready and willing or able to accept any longer. So here are the conditions for you staying in my life. Here are the conditions for us continuing to be in partnership. And if you can't respect that, then I have to ask you to move on. And how empowering is that? Really empowering when you hold true to it. That's the key, rock star. Is that we can set standards, but if we let somebody cross those said standard, then we don't have a standard. Our standard is not the standard. So it's really important as you're looking to, find clarity in the thing that you're seeking. It's not about adding more right now. It's about releasing something to make space for more. Imagine what happens when you let go of dead weight that's not serving you. That dead weight can come in the form of an expectation that you have placed upon someone else. It can come in the form of behavior that you're exhibiting. It can come in the form of relationship that you're holding on to, again, in many different forms. It can come in many different forms. But what happens when you decide to let go of the dead weight in your life? Inevitably, you've created space for more. That clarity that you were seeking, the answers you were trying to find to whatever the thing is, I promise you they will come more easily, more clearly, more effortlessly. Because you've let go of the energetic pull, the drain, the behavior of, not waking up till noon. Well, you just let go of that behavior and all of a sudden you start seeing the world very differently, in a whole different way. Right? So what are you now ready to let go of? What or whom? And maybe you don't want to say the who out loud, but think of it. And what else has to happen for you to decide that it's time? And even if it just means right now, coming up with a window of time that says, all right, here's my new standard. This is the time period that I'm observing the behavior. I will, and know this. You've got to communicate the standard. You can't just hold it in. You have to communicate it to the person, not to everyone else but the person. You have to communicate that. They have to know what they're playing against. They have to know what they're up against. They have to know the standard, the playing field. Or of course they're going to violate it. They don't know. So we have to begin to become, right? One of the 3 pillars to our programs is one of them is influence. We have to be able to create influence. In order to move somebody to somewhere that we want them to be, they have to know what they're dealing with, right? Like set the standard. All right, I guess I haven't had standards in the past, so now I choose to. I won't be tolerated to be talked to this way, right? I won't tolerate this sort of, violation of trust any longer. And here's what I expect from you. Very clear expectations. and then observe behavior over a period of time. Or maybe just cut loose, snip, they're gone. I promise you, when you cut the dead weight, ooh, often that who, cutting out the who in your life, feels better than cutting out the what. So, rock stars, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The 1% Life. If you did, leave us comments, share this out, tag somebody if you can, send this out, leave us a review if you're listening to The 1% Life on Spotify or iTunes podcasts. And tune in tomorrow for the next episode. Super excited to be here with you today. Blessed, finding gratitude in every moment. And I wanted to read you this one quote before I go. And it's by the Dalai Lama. And it says, "Do not let the behavior of others destroy your inner peace." And with that, I leave you, my friends. Until next time, get out there and change some lives today.